All right. So we want to welcome everyone to this month's 350 monthly meeting. And thank you for joining us on this rainy April evening. I hope you're warm and dry wherever you are. My name is Christina Cook. I'm one of the monthly meeting team members, along with Julia Isaacs, Susan Nossel, Marion Friedel, and Kelly Kearns. So we've helped organize the call that you're on tonight. And recording is on. So what we're going to start with tonight is a video. Our speaker from last month, Tequila Chungapa, this is produced by an organization that she's affiliated with. There wasn't time for her to share it at the last meeting, so we're going to share it now. Also recommend checking out the recording of last month's meeting. I think a lot of people really appreciated what she had to share, and it's worth going back to. So, but for now, we're going to share this video. Can everyone see the video?
Yes.
Successfully? Great. Okay, here we go.
The Earth is not going in a good direction, and we as Indigenous people already know that. And I just wanted to add some perspective as an Indigenous person, because it's so important, the values that we have and the values that we hold, to share them and help as much as we can, because this is our Mother Earth.
There's a major difference for a young mind to really think about, because when they grow up, they're told, you can be anything you want. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You are in control of your future. That was a very different message. When I grew up, it was, we are responsible to each other. We're responsible for each other. When one comes up, we all come up. We need to protect things. It wasn't I or you in particular. It was all of us. This is a we thing that's happening.
We understand things. Everything's connected. Everything's related. This reservation, we don't own it. We're caretakers of it. And it's not our decision so much as you got to think systems-wide out of this whole reservation, and the animals that live here, and that water that's alive, and birds, everything. So you have to understand whatever that trade-off is, it can't just be for people and for humans.
The incredible thing is, in this moment right now, people are willing to hear us, and having access to each other and sharing knowledge in safe spaces, knowing that that knowledge will be respected and not mistreated, but highly honored when you speak about it. It's standing in solidarity with other First Nations and saying that we're able to share resources, that we're stronger together. It's time. It's just time for us to do it.
All right, so that was a teaser for a documentary that's being produced by the LOCA initiative and shared with us by last month's speaker. And so we're looking forward to the full thing, I think, when it comes out. So kind of in the spirit of that video, and before moving on to our main speaker this evening, let's take a moment to ground ourselves by taking 2 deep breaths and reflecting on how we're connected to the earth that's beneath our feet. So as we reflect on that connection, the signs of spring that we see around us and in this photo, we also want to acknowledge the voices that we just saw in the previous video, those who lived on this land for centuries before colonial settlers arrived from Europe. So I'm speaking to you from sacred and continuously inhabited Ho-Chunk land, the Four Lakes region, known as Tejo to the Ho-Chunk people. And we want to say thank you to all the Ho-Chunk people who cared for these lands before settlers arrived from Europe, and their persistence in remaining here, remaining here, and continuing to steward this place where we live. So an overview of what we're going to get up to tonight. So we've had our sort of welcome, land acknowledgement, and shared that video from the local initiative. So next, Marian will be introducing our speaker for this evening, and Kathy will be talking about the Inflation Reduction Act. And after the speaker and time for Q&A, we'll have action updates from the various 350 Wisconsin teams and ways that you can get involved. And we want to say that as we all are here tonight, we welcome anybody who's new. There'll be a chance for you to chat one-on-one with a 350 Wisconsin team member at the end of the meeting. And we hope everybody, whether you're new or have been here a long time, feels welcome and safe in this meeting space. And I believe our code of conduct will be shared in the chat so that we can all contribute to creating a safe and welcoming space for everybody. So with that, I will turn it over to Marian.
Hello, everybody. Do you want to take down the slide at this point? Okay. I'd like to introduce Kathy Kuntz, who is the Director of the Office of Energy and Climate Change in Dane County. Kathy aims to make it easy for everyone to make choices that help achieve Dane County's ambitious climate goals. Kathy has almost 30 years of experience helping businesses and residents adopt sustainable practices. Kathy previously led Cool Choices, where she worked with local governments and private businesses on sustainability efforts for about 10 years. Before that, she led Focus on Energy, Wisconsin's statewide energy efficiency and renewable energy program. We're delighted today to welcome her to speak to us tonight and share with us her expertise in the Inflation Reduction Act. We'll hold our questions until the end, but please feel free to put questions in the chat as we go along, and then we'll ask questions at the end of the talk. So welcome, Kathy.
Thanks so much, Marian. It's great to be here. And those of you who know me know I love talking about the Inflation Reduction Act. So thanks for giving me another chance to do that. As per my bio, so I'm from the Dane County Office of Energy and Climate Change, and we have 2 big objectives. We're greening county operations. By 2030, we'll be carbon neutral across our facilities, fleet, and land operations. And we're greening the county in general. We're reducing countywide emissions. Our goal there is to cut emissions in half by 2030 and be carbon neutral by 2050. And as context for what I'm going to talk about here, maybe the most important thing for you to know is the county does not have really any regulatory authority relative to emissions. We can't make anyone do anything in this realm. What we can do is influence change, and it's partly why we're so excited about the Inflation Reduction Act. There are really three big ways we influence change at the county. The first, is leading by example. Okay, that was not what was supposed to happen. Hang on a second. I hit the link there. Watch your thing, Catherine. The first thing we do is lead by example. So last summer we achieved 100% renewable offset electricity for all of the county facilities. That's everything from the airport to the zoo. And last year, we saved $400,000 of taxpayer money on our electric bill through those renewable energy partnerships we have. So when we think about leading by example, we're always aiming to demonstrate that doing the right thing for the environment is often also the right thing for the economy, and that it's really the responsible thing for governments to do. So we want our example to spur others. We also, though, want to celebrate what other folks are doing. One of the other things we do is we spend a lot of time raising up the other examples in our community. So in Dane County, we have a lot of folks who are leading in one way or another on climate action. We have a Climate Champions program where we've recognized more than 150 local businesses, nonprofits, governments, for the various ways that they are leading on climate action. And the point of that is to really create a culture where everyone is paying attention to all of the things that others are doing to be part of a solution. The third thing we have to do, though, is we have to make it easier for folks to be part of that solution. And that really takes us to the Inflation Reduction Act. One of the things we've spent a lot of time on over the last year and a half since the IRA passed is creating web and paper resources to help people make sense of this enormous opportunity. So we're trying to, read the IRS guidelines, sometimes which are 200 or 300 pages, and turn that into 5 or 6 bullets that are the key information for folks so that this is really actionable. And we're obsessed with the IRA because it is such a huge opportunity. I really like this graph from RMI because it illustrates just how big of an opportunity we've got in front of us right now. The funding for climate action on an annual basis is more than threefold what it has ever been in history. And really, this is just an estimate because the Inflation Reduction Act, 2/3 of the funding there are tax credits, and there's no cap on how big the tax credits could be. So there are some experts who are saying that this graph is conservative now and should go up, another 100 billion or something, because the tax credits as they start to get used are just so huge. So even if I lived in a less complicated place like Massachusetts, I would be super excited about the Inflation Reduction Act. But I live in Wisconsin, you live in Wisconsin, and this is an especially huge opportunity for us. A couple of years ago, Governor Evers proposed a budget where he proposed doubling the funding for Focus on Energy. And 350 Wisconsin was one of the groups that was supporting that increase in funding, which didn't happen. It was dead on arrival at the legislature. We've been, lots of us, advocating for a long time for more money for energy efficiency and renewables to make these solutions more affordable to more people, and it didn't happen. And now suddenly, with the infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act, we have unprecedented amounts of money for renewable energy, for energy efficiency, for electrification, targeted at all kinds of different populations. There's just this enormous opportunity here that we haven't had before. particularly in a place like Wisconsin. You know, when I think about this and where we were before this, where we were saying we have a lot of will locally to get things done, but our partners don't have the resources they need to finance those projects. Well, Congress and the president did an end run around our local roadblocks. You know, they created all of this funding, and now it's really up to us. Are we going to make projects happen locally? Are we going to document the benefits of low-cost clean energy solutions and build the case forward? I mean, I really want you to think about the IRA as the beginning of us solving this problem. This legislation is not the final piece, but it's an amazing start to a new phase of what we can be doing. So I'm going to dig in a little bit to some pieces of this, and then I'm intentionally aiming to leave us lots of time to talk about whichever pieces you want to talk more about. I'm going to start with the renewable energy credits. And, you know, I started my career in energy efficiency, and I was always taught, we always talk about energy efficiency before renewables, but the IRA loves renewables, like Oprah throwing solar panels to the audience. Solar for everyone kind of loves renewables here. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, everybody qualifies for a 30% credit off solar, wind, battery storage, geothermal. Everybody. Really, the way to think about this is that prior to the Inflation Reduction Act, there were renewable energy credits for certain entities, for businesses that had a large tax liability. What the IRA did, what Congress did here, was say, okay, everybody should benefit. So nonprofits and local governments previously couldn't get the credit because we didn't pay taxes. Congress invented a new thing, elective pay. Now we can get those credits. Some for-profit businesses didn't make enough money. They didn't have a big enough profit to have a tax liability. Well, now they can transfer their credit to someone else. They can essentially make money off of it. Similarly, some homeowners didn't have a big enough tax liability to take the full credit. Well, now homeowners can carry their credit forward. So suppose someone installed a system that qualified for a $10,000 credit, and their tax liability this year is only $2,500. They can carry that other $7,500 forward to future years to keep writing off their tax bill. There's no limit to the size of renewables that can be covered here. So you start to get the sense of why I say, okay, the IRA loves renewable energy. These opportunities are just really huge. And they come at a time that's really significant. So part of the aim of the IRA is to make clean energy cheaper than the dirty alternatives. And those 30% credits, coupled with the dropping cost of solar and wind. So I have a graph here of solar costs on homes and on businesses over the last decade, and you see how those costs have just plunged. Now imagine that, almost a third of that remaining piece is the credit. So look how much further those costs come down in this. And there isn't as nice of a graph of this on the wind side, but wind costs have similarly come down. And geothermal with the credits is really affordable too. And so we've got success here in terms of making these clean energy systems really affordable. I want to give you one example of this that's maybe one of my favorite examples locally. So the village of McFarland, prior to the pandemic and the Inflation Reduction Act, was building a public safety center, a new home for their fire, police, and municipal court. And they decided to pursue a net zero energy building. Then, of course, the pandemic happened, construction costs ballooned. Nevertheless, they persevered and stayed on course with their net zero energy building. The Inflation Reduction Act passed. McFarland's building was just finished last year, and it now qualifies for these credits. The village of McFarland is going to get about $1 million back on that public safety center for the geothermal and solar installed at that building. And think about, I mean, McFarland is a relatively small place. They're going to get a check in the mail from the IRS for $1 million that they can use for whatever they want. That's just, they can buy down their debt. They can use it to invest in other projects. The opportunity here is just really tremendous. Okay, so that's the renewable energy side of this. The energy efficiency side is also a really big opportunity, and it's partly a big opportunity because there's money here and we know that there's dramatic need. So this picture on the left is a favorite Energy Star drawing of mine, where they're showing you up here, you know, your home, there's a heated box. Your aim as a household is to keep the heat you pay for, or the cooling in the summer, inside that box. But the way we build houses means that we cut square holes and put round pipes through them, and sometimes don't seal those very well. And so all kinds of air leaks through our homes, all kinds of heat we pay for escapes out of our facilities. On the right here is a story from Minneapolis. So in 2020, the city of Minneapolis passed an ordinance that anytime a house was sold, there had to be a home energy audit. And in 2023, they looked at the first 3 years of those audits. And this reporter was stunned to learn that 2/3 of the homes sold during that time were found to have inadequate insulation when they were audited. When I saw this story, I thought that's not surprising at all. 2/3 of all the homes in Madison are inadequately insulated. 2/3 of the homes in all of our communities in the upper Midwest are inadequately insulated, partly because we haven't had good building energy codes for that long. So we've got all kinds of opportunity around efficiency that maybe we aren't really used to seeing because we've all lived our lives in drafty old houses and we don't have very good expectations for our homes. So I have this cheat list for you that you might want to pursue energy efficiency at your house if some of these things are true. If some of the rooms or floors of your house are a lot warmer or cooler than other rooms or floors, if you've got windows that frost up in the winter, if when you compare your house to the immediately adjacent neighbor house, the snow melts off your roof faster, or you have big icicles on your eaves. The other thing is, if you are an MG&E or Alliant Energy customer, you can actually go on their website and look at the average energy use of your neighbors and see if your house uses more energy than others in your neighborhood. Any of those things are true, you should pursue a home energy audit, which, you know, helps you stop burning money and brings in a professional who can set up a blower door and figure out how airtight your home is and how to get you on track to save money. Under the Inflation Reduction Act, for households that have the wherewithal to pay for those improvements up front, there's a 30% tax credit. Now, it's not as generous as the renewable tax credit. This one has caps. It has an annual maximum that, you know, these credits are all in place for 10 years through 2032. So with the efficiency, I think really what it encourages you to do is get an audit and do some work this year. The audit has a tax credit. That you could do insulation, you'd get a tax credit for that. Next year, you could replace your heating system, get a tax credit for that. You know, there could be this serial of opportunities. The trick about tax credits, though, is they really only work for folks who have the money now, because you have to pay for the improvements and then claim that credit next year on your taxes. So you've got to have the upfront money. So there's another program under the Inflation Reduction Act, a set of actually 2 programs that together we call the home energy rebates. These are energy efficiency and electrification programs that really target low and moderate income households. So think folks up to 150% of area median income. So these programs are going to be operated through Focus on Energy, our statewide energy efficiency program, which is awesome. You know, there are only a handful of states that have a Focus on Energy. We've got a way to roll these programs out statewide much faster than a lot of other states. This is a moment where we're ahead of Minnesota and other folks. So there's both a program to help with that energy efficiency and one to help with electrification, to move people toward heat pumps and induction stoves. Right now, Focus on Energy just submitted a plan to the Public Service Commission about how these programs are going to work. And there's an opportunity to do comments there. And then we think that the programs will launch later this year, probably late summer, early fall kind of thing. And these programs will be upfront rebates. So it'll work better for those low and moderate income households than that tax credit does. The last thing I want to say here is just a little bit about electrification, because it feels like when I talk about the kind of things like heat pumps, there's often folks who are like, that's like a whole new technology. So I find that the easiest way to understand a heat pump is your central air conditioner is a heat pump with only half the features. So what your central air conditioner does is take moist, warm air from the outside, run it through refrigerators and an air compressor to push cool air into your house. A heat pump does that exact same thing more efficiently, but it also does the opposite. It can take cold air from the outside, run it the other way through those air compressors and coolants to push warm air into your house. So that's a heat pump. Now you've got that mechanical training. There are lots of kinds of heat pumps, and really there's not one best answer for everyone. The best choice is going to depend on your house and what you're trying to accomplish. Focus last year published a really nice consumer guide to heat pumps. And we've got a list on our website of local heat pump installers. As those new electrification programs roll out at Focus, they'll develop a statewide list of heat pump installers. So there's like more resources coming there on that side. And then the last thing I'll say about efficiency is there is an energy efficiency improvement tax deduction for businesses. So a tax credit comes off the amount of taxes you owe the federal government. A deduction comes off the income on which the tax is calculated from. The deduction is not as good of a deal essentially as a tax credit. But if you have a large, older facility, this can be a really good deal, particularly if you can get high savings. It's up to $5 a square foot. So think about some larger like office building that's 200,000 or 300,000 square feet. This can really add up to a lot of money for companies. And so we're hoping this deduction is going to accelerate efficiency in some of our older buildings out there. The last credit I want to highlight is the electric vehicle credit. So under the Inflation Reduction Act, the credits for electric vehicles changed slightly. There's now a $7,500 credit for qualifying new vehicles and $4,000 for used vehicles. The really important thing to know about this is as of this year, that credit can be an instant rebate off the purchase price at the dealership. So you can go to a dealership and get that $7,500 off the purchase price, which reduces the sales tax you pay. And it means you don't have to wait until you file your taxes to get that incentive back. So that's like this exciting, in a bunch of ways, the federal government, bless their hearts, really did try to think about how to make these things easier. And that's one that feels like it's really happening. We're aware of multiple dealerships in the state that are now offering the instant rebate, and consumers are obviously pretty happy about that. There are also tax credits for businesses and again for nonprofits and tax exempt entities for light and heavy duty vehicles. And the thing I want to close with is just, and when you get this, all of these things are like hot links. So our website is a good place to start in terms of making sense of all of this. We also like Rewiring America. They've got a tool where you can calculate what credits you might be eligible for. Focus on Energy has terrific insights. And here in Dane County, the Madison program can help you make sense of going solar if you need that support kind of thing. And so with that, I'm going to stop sharing so that I can hear what questions you have.
Thank you so much, Kathy. Yes, we're having a number of questions in the chat. Scott might want to say something, but he had some questions about commercial buildings IRA credits going through 179D and need energy modeling. And maybe you could explain what that means. But that's his question. Do all commercial building IRA credits go? Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, Scott, they do need energy modeling to do that. And there is some level of flexibility in the modeling you use. But yes, it's the same 179D credit that has existed in the past. It's just the dollars behind it are substantially higher than they used to be.
So you can say that there are no technologies that are outside of modeling in 179D for commercial buildings.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Scott, you know what, the really key thing here for those folks is the baseline for an existing building is the current performance of that existing building. So a more inefficient older building is going to have a baseline that creates more opportunity for savings. You know, so so for example, the city of Madison is about to implement a building energy savings program where large buildings are going to do a benchmarking, and some folks are going to suddenly know, oh, my building is really inefficient. It seems like a great opportunity for some entrepreneurial person, poking at you, Scott, to be approaching some of them and go, hey, you could get this huge tax deduction for taking this on.
Well, there is one major notable caveat here. I'm working with a building that's about 20 to 30 kW. That describes the electrical size of the building, fairly small. Mm-hmm. If I had to do energy modeling for all the savings or for any of the savings in this building, the cost of the modeling would not be covered. So it's the small businesses that are going to be in kind of out of luck with this energy modeling in 179D.
Yeah, I agree that the other thing is it does not work very well for any of the tax exempt entities, because I mean, it would be a great thing for like a lot of faith communities. Those facilities can be really inefficient, but because it's a deduction, it doesn't work very well in those cases. It's why I say the IRA loves renewables more than efficiency, that, the incentives, maybe this gets fixed in the next round of climate bills.
Well, if I can keep going, I will. Do PV
No, let's move on to another question and maybe come back to you. Okay, Scott?
I have one quick thing. Be thinking of ways to help small businesses. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any answer to that, Kathy?
So in terms of that, the thing I can share is we actually just added a position in our office to work with nonprofits and small businesses to try to help them accelerate their efficiency efforts, knowing that they often don't have the internal capacity to figure these things out. But to some extent, Scott is right. It's trickier for them that some of these, the tax deduction isn't going to work very well for them. Things like property assessed clean energy might help them finance those projects. So there's like maybe a mix of things to do, but we're going to be out there paying attention to small businesses. Yes.
Thank you. We have another question about, can anything meaningful be done with multifamily buildings? Anything meaningful that renters in multifamily buildings can do?
Yeah, so those new home energy rebate programs, multifamily buildings, landlords are eligible for those programs, and Focus will have a mandate from the federal government to really push those opportunities to low-income neighborhoods and to multifamily rentals. So there's a lot of money there to do retrofits in multifamily buildings. I think, there's a challenge here because we're in the midst of a housing crisis. It seems to me that we're not in a moment where we want to encourage tenants to agitate at their landlords about doing improvements in a way that might make tenants at risk for eviction, because they're just like, we're in a really tight housing market. So we need to think creatively about how we package this for landlords to make it appealing to them and bring them along to a safer, more resilient building for their tenants. There's going to be a little bit of a dance there, but it's something I can assure you that local governments across the region are thinking about. We really want to see a lot of those multifamily buildings be upgraded in these efforts.
Thank you. Cindy wants to know, how many years does these benefits apply? She wants to buy a new car in 2025. She's wondering how many years.
So the tax credits are all in place through 2032. Now sometimes I get a question about, well, what if we have a change in administration? There's already been talk that the GOP wants to roll all of this stuff back. In general, what the policy experts say is that Congress almost never takes away tax credits once they've passed them. But that's not a very, what might happen is the rules on some of the tax credits might get stricter. So it feels like the current administration is trying really hard to make these tax credits work for a maximum number of eligible entities, and that could change over time. But in general, I think the tax credits are pretty safe through 2032.
Thank you. So Doug says the payback for geothermal in smaller homes, even with tax credits and rebates, is longer than the expected life of the equipment, over 50 years. Given this, how are the IRA incentives for switching from natural gas heat to electric heat pumps, which in Wisconsin is primarily natural gas, coal, and nuclear, resulting in anything cleaner or more affordable?
So one of the things that looks likely to happen with these new electrification rebates through the home energy rebates is that the focus will be first on, about 2/3 of our homes heat with natural gas. The rest are a combination of propane in rural areas, electric resistance heat in apartment buildings, especially in places like Dane County, a little bit of fuel oil out there. So we're going to see the heat pumps probably first targeting those higher cost fuels, the electric resistance heat and the propane, rather than the natural gas, because the math is a little bit better. You've got folks who are motivated by other things, like they've got solar on their roof and they can offset, the heat pump operation with clean power, that are going to go after the heat pumps in the near term. But it's going to take a little while. I mean, our natural gas prices are artificially low. And so you know, it's this bigger climate issue you folks think about a lot, that nobody's paying for all of the methane that leaks out of our natural gas system. And so we have this kind of artificially low price for it at the end of the system, but it's sending the wrong signal to folks. But that part that isn't gonna happen in the first wave of this funding. You know, we're gonna first go after the homes that are most cost effective, that will see the immediate savings, and that'll create an opportunity for us to get more cold climate heat pumps out there and more savings and more comfort, and it'll lower the cost of equipment, and we'll go after more phases afterwards. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
John asks, how important is it for homeowners to consider battery storage here in Wisconsin? Is there variation in the value of this opportunity in different areas of the state? And will changes in utility net metering policies impact the value of battery storage for homeowners?
So that's a great question. And like the answer at the end there is yes. I mean, I think what solar installers are telling us is there's a portion of customers who are installing batteries both because they're nervous about the grid, because we see these outages in other parts of the country. But also some folks are thinking about, if, you know, we've been working really hard to protect net metering in Wisconsin. 350 played a really important role in the last year in protecting that. If net metering changes, and by net metering, what we're talking about is if you have a solar array on your house, sometimes when you produce more power than your house can immediately use, that goes back to the grid. And it's about whether you get the full value for the power you sell to the grid or not. Batteries are a way to control when you sell to the grid and sort of optimize your choices there. I think we're going to see more batteries because of anxiety around net metering, honestly, is sort of where I would land there, John.
Nikki wants to know any idea about which quarter this might happen, or just sometime in 2024.
So I think, Nikki, in the plan that Focus on Energy submitted to the commission is really, it's like 313 pages long, because I'm trying to read the whole thing. And it sounds like they think one of the programs will launch in late summer, and the other one, it'll be the fall before it launches, is sort of what they're saying there, is my understanding. But I don't think I've gotten to that page yet where they say that.
I think we'll do maybe two more questions. Stephanie asks, what are the most important ways that community advocates can ensure that our communities around Wisconsin make the most of the IRA benefits?
Yeah, I think it's incredibly important that groups like 350 are helping folks be aware of these opportunities. You know, and that goes from your family and friends to, like, are there other networks you're part of in your community where you could share some information about, hey, did you know there were these tax credits, and if you insulate your house now, you can get 30% of that covered, sort of thing. So I think and folks, if there's a cohort in 350 community who's interested in helping spread that word, like, we have lots of materials and would love to chat with you about how to do that.
Thank you. There was one here. Oh, shoot. So let's see. Can we have a list of solar installers, or do you have one at your office?
So we don't have one. Focus on Energy has one on there. They have trade ally lists, and Renew Wisconsin also has a list of solar installers in the state. We have a clean energy map where we note who installed which system, but we don't keep a list because other people keep that list.
And okay, and this will be our last question. Can you please say more about how the IRA can assist renters and whether there is assistance for weatherization? Is there also money in the IRA to fund jobs in weatherization and renewable energy?
So in this new home energy rebate program that's coming out, there is funding for there's sort of the incentives there are tiered, and households under 80% of area median income get up to 100% of the cost covered for certain electrification or energy efficiency measures. So that's going to mean that there sort of are the folks who qualify for low-income weatherization, and we're going to have above that a whole nother tier that's going to qualify for these incentives. On rentals, for a landlord to participate, they have to verify the income of 51% of the tenants in their building. Essentially, they have to verify that they're income qualified. I think the combination of these programs is going to make that easier for landlords. But I think we also, I mean, certainly at Dane County, we're thinking about how do we help landlords be aware of these opportunities. And in the same way that we celebrate climate champions, how do we celebrate landlords who are leading so that others want to? I mean, this is what I do. I mostly think about how do I, some might say, manipulate folks into doing what we want them to do.
Thank you so much, Kathy. This was really great. We have other questions that we don't have time to get to, but perhaps after the
Right.
in the breakout rooms, we could get to them. And so I want to turn it over now to Julia and another member of the monthly meeting team.
Yeah, I see people in the chat, me and John. Thank you, Kathy. That was really, we were told that you would be very informative, and that was very true. So thank you. And we will have time after our action updates. We just want to give everyone a chance to hear about what different parts of 350 are doing and how you can plug in. And then we'll have we'll have a breakout with Kathy for those that want to stay. So let's go through the slides. Next slide. I think we're going to start with an IRA volunteers, and maybe you've been inspired. So I'm going to introduce Maddie Leffler, who is our office administrator and just does a lot of things for us. Maddie.
Alrighty, thank you, Julia. So as you heard from Kathy, there are a lot of opportunities for individual residents, businesses, nonprofits, and local governments relating to the IRA, and we can play a critical role in connecting folks with these opportunities and advocating locally for IRA projects in our communities. And so if you're interested in getting involved in 350 Wisconsin's evolving IRA work, please fill out the Google form I'll be sending in the chat right now. And you'll be contacted once we know more. So you can head to the next slide. So 350 Wisconsin is part of the REAMP network, and several of its member organizations are working together to host office hours for residents to ask questions and get connected with resources related to IRA opportunities. So the next one is scheduled for May 1st at 6 p.m. Feel free to join if you have questions about how you can take advantage of IRA opportunities as a Wisconsin resident, and feel free to spread the word. So I'll send that link in the chat as well. I'll pass it back to Julia.
Thank you, Maddie. Next slide. I think I'm going to introduce Brittany Reamer, who is our what is your title, Brittany? Fossil fuel resistance organizer, something like that.
That works perfectly fine for me, Julia. Yes. As Julia said, my name is Brittany, and I think that most folks heard or had gotten an email at some point in the last couple of months, asking you to sign and spread the word about a petition that was going to be sent to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, asking them to conduct a full EIS on the Line 5 reroute. And a quick update on that, those petition signatures were delivered last month, and we had 9,000 signatures, y'all. We had 9,000 signatures that made it to DC. We are continuing to collect signatures on that petition. And this week, we're going to be focusing on a call in to senators in 3 different states, Wisconsin being one of them. So this is going along with that petition that we sent around. You know, we are going to call together and urge Senator Baldwin to support the Bad River Band in shutting down Line 5, and also urge her to support, you know, us in asking the Army Corps of Engineers for a full EIS on that reroute. Additionally, there is some big news coming this week, beginning of next week at the latest. The U.S. government will actually be filing an amicus brief in the Bad River versus Enbridge case. So again, this call will also help us get the word to Senator Baldwin that this is something that we really care about here in Wisconsin. And I will put the link in the chat. It's also on the little image there. And it will go right to a super simple script that you can use. Very, very easy. If you know nothing about Line 5, it doesn't matter. You can still give them a call. And please, please, please spread the word to get those calls out this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Brittany. Next slide. I will do in place of our political organizer who's not able to meet with us tonight. So there's an upcoming training possibility where you could get certified in what's called deep canvassing. This is a method that sets aside factual debate. So when people just throw facts at each other, no one really listens. Instead, it builds genuine connection and shared understanding. So this will be 100% free. This is a 3-session training series presented by the Deep Canvas Institute. It'll be April 16th, 17th, and 20th. And even if you can't make all 3, you'll be welcome, but then you wouldn't actually get the certification. It'll be by Zoom, so you can join anywhere. And why would you want to do this? Well, deep canvassing is going to be central to 350 Wisconsin's 2024 campaign plan. Together, we'll employ this proven method of inspiring true changes of heart on complex and divisive issues. And I see that the deep canvassing training link is in the chat. You also can email Jesse at 350 Wisconsin. Sorry, my screen is just not sharp for some reason. So I will count that it's sharp for you. Next slide, I think I'm going to turn to Diane. Oh,
no, the next one's mine.
Oh, I didn't know we had that one. Thank you. Okay.
This will be really quick, just also related to Tammy Baldwin. We're hoping that people will join us this Friday, April 5th. 350 Wisconsin and Healthy Climate Wisconsin are going to be calling on Senator Baldwin to defend the EPA's new particulate matter soot standards against congressional acts in the Senate, attacks in the Senate. We're going to be meeting early in the morning on Friday, hoping to get the attention of rush hour traffic because we know that Senator Baldwin is in Wisconsin this week. So we're going to be meeting at 7:45 in the morning at Olin Park, which is on the south end of John Nolan Drive, and just going to be holding signs for a little bit just to show her that we are hoping that she stands up for clean air standards. If you have questions, feel free to email me. Also, if you think you might want to join us, would love to hear that so that we can get an approximate head count. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And for those who don't know, Emily is one of our co-executive directors. Now I'll introduce Diane Brackarsh, who is co-lead with Russ Bennett of our Art Collective team.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Kathy Kuntz. What an incredible presentation. So much information. Thank you. So yes, I wanted to just shout out that on April 20th, Saturday at the farmers market at 10 a.m., there's going to be a new performance piece. I see the slide says flash mob. There's going to be an entire street theater performance, and we're going to be focusing on the election and voting with climate in mind. But there are going to be some really unexpected visitors appearing at the farmers market, and it's going to be kind of well, not very predictable. So we would love to have people join us. Very soon the newsletters are coming out. Maybe it has come out because I haven't checked email all day. And it's going to have a sign up link. And we would love to have people join us to hold banners or any number of things. We can let you in on the secret if you contact us. But it's going to be really fun. And yeah, we'd love to have you. Also on April 20th, beginning at 1 p.m. at East Campus Mall, we're inviting everybody to join us to support a group of students, not just UW students, but from across the state. They're going to march to Library Mall and then down State Street to the State Street Capitol steps for a brief rally that will begin around 2 p.m. So we'd love to have as many of you as possible to join us. We have these, I'm sure you've seen them, these great critter hats that you can wear if you want. You don't have to. You can wave an Earth flag. You can hold a sign. You can just march, whatever you feel like doing. But it's a really concrete way for us to show support to this next generation of climate activists. So we're really working very hard on this to not only make our points to the public in a very disarming way, but to really energize us as a group and support each other. So we would love to have you join us, even if you're just a smiling face in the crowd. Thanks.
Thank you, Diane. In the next slide, Kristen, another Earth Day message. Kristen is our development manager.
Hi everyone,
Kristen
it's
Clark.
a pleasure to see you all tonight. I want to share that, as you know, this month is Earth Month, and so we are launching our spring fundraiser, Grow Together, Give Together, with the goal of raising $5,000 this month. And we are just so grateful for our community of supporters and for everyone on this call who is a part of our organization in so many different ways. And as you know, we have a lot of really important work coming up this year, including Line 5 resistance, as we've talked about tonight, advocating at the Public Service Commission for fair utility rates and nonpartisan electoral work, and just a lot of really important and exciting things going on this year. And so this fundraiser is to help make sure that we have all the resources to get the job done. And so I'm dropping the link in the chat if anyone is able to donate. We are just so grateful for everyone who's here tonight and a part of our community.
All right. So this is me. Hello, everybody. I'm Nikki. I'm our volunteer coordinator. And I would like to highlight a couple of Earth Day events as well, because this is a busy month for us Earth-based activists. And so this is a wonderful event that we've been a part of for several years now, the Earth Day Everyday event. It is the weekend after Earth Day, so you don't have to miss the art collective. It is April 27th. And this takes place in Middleton. It's got free admission, live music, lots of things for families of all ages, as well as drawings, exhibitors, speakers. There's a lot of things going on. We also would love to see you as a volunteer if you're interested in tabling, which is what I am doing in this picture here, just telling people about what 350 Wisconsin does. Here is a link in the chat here for our sign up for volunteers for this particular day. And we would love to see you here.
And the next slide, it will be continue to be Nikki for a little bit.
Yes, so there is another event going on Earth Day. And we like to support our partners as well. And so we have been asked to share an event put on by Eco Latinos. It's going to be a bilingual event. It's a conservation fair, and this is taking place at Elver Park. They are looking for volunteers as well to help out with some of their interactive exhibits. And so if you are interested in volunteering with Eco Latinos that day, you can go ahead and contact me.
Next slide.
And me again. And the other thing that we would like to do here is really take our time to thank our volunteer of the month this month, Rachel Robillard. Yay, Rachel! I hope Rachel is here. Hopefully she can wave. So Rachel is one of our co-leads for our Community Climate Solutions team. The Community Climate Solutions team is our largest team in terms of number of members, and managing it takes a lot of time, energy, and dedication. And she's a stellar team lead. She serves on the coordinating council and is a part of organization-wide coordination. And she also recently was a part of our planning team for strategic planning, where she brought valuable insight to the process that is going to help guide our entire organization for the next couple of years. She is smart, thoughtful, clear, and she does a great job connecting lots of different groups of people to make sure that everything is going smoothly. So we are so lucky to have Rachel. So happy that she's with us. And thank you, Rachel, for all that you have done and all that you continue to do.
Thank you, Nikki. And there have been a lot of things in the chat. And if you're a volunteer who wants to get involved and you lost track of something, I would, Nikki will help connect you with folks if you need help. So I want to encourage you to continue coming to our monthly meetings. We will be meeting the first Monday of the month, even in July. July 4th is far enough away from July 1st that we'll be meeting the first Monday of the month. Next month, I'm really excited that one of our board members, Stephanie, I'm gonna mangle her name, Stephanie Janeth Salgado Altamirano, she'll share her experiences as a climate activist and some of her personal climate activism stories. June 3rd at this moment is scheduled to be the annual meeting, with more details coming in the future. And as already mentioned, we will meet the first of the month in July. And we can quickly, I just show the next couple of slides. We have different teams. Our tar sands team, you heard from Brittany, they meet right before this meeting on the first Mondays. I don't know if we've heard explicitly from the climate justice team tonight, though we weave climate justice through. They meet in the second Mondays. The community action team, which that newsletter that will be coming out, a lot of the webpage, all that wonderful stuff. Emily Park, you can contact if you want to find out if it's a team you'd want to join. Let's go on to the next slide, because there's teams that meet on nights other than Monday. The one we just heard that Rachel leads co-leads what is actually one of the largest teams, our Community Climate Solutions team that meets on the third Thursdays. You've heard from Diane about the Art Collective. There's a state policy team. You can contact Kristen if you want to get more involved with fundraising. You can contact me if you'd like to. We always could use another person to help run these monthly meetings. Next slide, I think, is the final slide so there were so many questions for Kathy, and she has been gracious enough to say that she can stay and do Q&A. So if you would like to join Kathy, in a moment, there'll be breakout rooms and you just click join, or if you have troubles, we can move you there. And we would love, Nikki would love to meet briefly with newcomers just to answer your questions and get to know you a little bit. Nikki, I'm putting the newcomers in room 2, so you won't have to wait for everyone in the main room to kind of leave. And after you're in room 2, if you're a newcomer, you meet Nikki, and then you want to ask Kathy another question, you can still stay on. And if you're tired, we always say you can say good night. And we should probably stop the recording now. I guess we could have